Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids. It seems I am a little red here, so let's try and fix that. Maybe that's a little better. There we go. Good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 5 and episode number 780 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Do. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Wednesday, November 5th. 2025, and I'm looking outside and it looks like it's a little gray here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and not with me, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly, although I see his name on the screen, so I'm going to have to change that. Because I am definitely not at Polly's World 2005. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and Cubs, how is your mental health doing today? I am doing well. I'm still a little tired because, as I mentioned the night before, was a little bit of a shorter night, given that I was undergoing some post-concert bliss. And yesterday we had a 9:20 curling match, which always sends me to bed immediately. Sends me to bed after my regular bedtime. So yeah, I basically walked through the door last night and looked at my beaver sweetie, gave him a kiss on the back of the head, went to the bathroom, shucked my clothes, and went immediately to bed, which provoked a, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, It's 12:20. The alarm clock rings at the latest at 6:20. I'm already only getting 6 hours. I'm going to bed." This beaver's tired. I did, and I remember climbing into bed and nothing else. I conked out immediately and pretty much slept all the way through until 6:05 when I woke up on my own and decided to stay in bed for an extra 15 minutes of snuggles because I gotta have my snuggles, and I wasn't awake for them last night, so so I got my snuggle time in. So I am in a good mood, very good spirits, although a little sleepy. I wish I could take a nap immediately after the show, but unfortunately, I have some appointments at 11:30, and I'm I'm feeling good. Just minorly disappointed in that yesterday we played curling and unfortunately one of our team members weren't there, so it was 4 against 3, which is always a tough order to begin with. And I was playing so well yesterday, but just not enough. The best way I can describe it is all my shots were going to the proper area code, just not exactly the right number. So I was like, either 1 foot too short or 1 foot too heavy, or things were going in the right way, and then the rock would just slow down and jump a little bit, and then rub against another rock instead of going around it. And it's just like all match long. But I was throwing really well, so I am getting used to the new shoes, and I'm getting better at being able to get up off the ice. Because fortunately, when we're playing three, if our third is not there, the one and two are me and Michael, who's also my doubles partner. So we're used to throwing rocks and getting up and sweeping with each other and having that communication. So that worked very well for us. But I just, just by this much, just couldn't get to the exact right spot I was wanting to go. And yeah, we had our backsides handed to us. So on the scoreboard, at least, the game was much closer than the scoreboard indicated. But it was just I just I just want to be there. It takes so long to get used to new shoes and new sliders. I'm told. I thought it would be like just like a couple of weeks, but my skip said it could potentially take me the full year to get there. And I love the sport, and I really don't necessarily care win or lose so long as I play well. But in all the matches I've played, all leagues combined, I've only won one match so far this year. that, that's a little low for my liking. But hey, things will speed up. There's also just been, I guess, a lot of traveling this year or something, because a lot of people, um, I think we've only played 1 week so far since the beginning of the season with our full team. Either somebody has been missing, or we've had somebody replacing somebody who was missing. So it's a bit of an interesting start to the year, not getting 4 or 5 games in a row with your full complement of your full team, and getting into a groove. Our third has played only 2 matches this year, right? And is already off away out of town for a full month. So it's a bit of trickier start to the season, but we gel eventually. We always have a terrible first round for some reason. I don't know what it is with this team, and then we sort of like, oh, maybe we should take this seriously, and then start showing up. Oh well, we play for the fun and the free beer when we lose. It's not a bad deal. All right. uh, I'm going to take off the glasses, kits and cubs. I was wearing them earlier, but they are for distance and not for nearsightedness. So the screen is actually a little blurry. There you go. So, but you got to see my intellectual look. I put on the glasses. It's my superpower. People think I look smart, and then they find out. Ah. All right. As you can tell, I'm in a good mood. Um, so, Cats and Cubs, DAMFAM. Um, anything happen yesterday at all? I heard there was a budget, but um, there was drama that kind of pulled focus from the budget. Some member of the Conservative Party uh, picked he picked a fine time to be a loose wheel. Oh man. Well, I did not expect that type of excitement yesterday. If you happen to be living under a rock, you might have missed that a conservative MP who goes by the name of Chris D'Entremont, as a francophone, I would say Chris D'Entremont, but I'm guessing that he pronounces it D'Entremont, who represents a riding in Nova Scotia, the riding of, I think it's something Acadie. I can't remember. Acadie Annapolis. There we go. I had that. Um, a different kind of AA. Ah. But yes, he represents Acadie Annapolis, previously known as West Nova, in the House of Commons, and he's been representing it since 2019. Chris D'Entremont has also, in the past, been a deputy speaker of the House of Commons. The Conservative Party of Canada, the current iteration of it, if you remember correctly, in the very, very early days of Pierre having officially become the leader, there was a conservative MP named Alain Reyes who was not particularly aligned with Pierre. In fact, in the leadership race, he supported another potential leader. And soon after Pierre became leader, um, there was a push to kind of make him feel unwelcome, or that had started before that. And Alain Reyes, who had openly, very openly, obviously by supporting Jean Charest, but probably did and said more on his own than just supporting Jean Charest. Um, it was very clear that he was not particularly supportive of Pierre Poilièvre. And well, Alain Reyes is no longer a CPC MP. Now, somewhere along the way, um, as you know, we know now, especially past the federal election, the Conservative Party of Canada under Pierre Poilievre doesn't treat other people who identify themselves as conservatives, wherever they may be on the spectrum, whether progressive conservative or hardcore conservative or really, really right wing, almost PPC type conservative. Um, he doesn't really have much love or affection for them if they don't seem to pass what is the PeePee purity test. Certain conservatives are not conservative enough or are not real conservatives, according to the current iteration of the party. Alain Reyes fell into that category for the Conservatives, but also Premiers Tim Houston and Doug Ford fell into that category. As we know, in the previous election, we found out that the Nova Scotia and Ontario Progressive Conservatives did not use any of their machine or apparatus, for the most part, to try to help Pierre Poilievre win. Certain MPs, certain provincial representatives were allowed to freelance. Carolyn Maroney did in support of Pierre Poilievre, I believe. But there was no official party help, and it seems a lot of that seemed to stem from hurt fifis, from the fact that when Doug Ford and Tim Houston won their impressive majorities, there was no phone call from the federal Conservative Party congratulating allegedly fellow conservatives on some rather impressive victories. Rather short-sighted move on the part of the federal party, because that may have cost them the federal election in terms of not having boots on the grounds and resources from the provincial wings to be at their assistance and to provide some. But um, yeah, Doug Ford's friendship with Chrystia Freeland was a little too much, and Doug Ford um, doesn't necessarily go all in on the racism and anti-gay stuff and whatnot. We see little signs of it now and then, but he doesn't go all in like the conservatives do. And Doug Ford um, sees value in trying to work with the federal government without just basically uh, raising it up as the boogeyman that everyone must fight, as the other side of the conservative spectrum seems to do and delight in, and has been for several years now. Tim Houston, also known to be a little bit more moderate on those things, and willing to work with the federal government as well. And therefore, he is persona non grata within the conservatives, because anybody who's willing to work with a liberal is definitely evil and poison, and therefore must be eliminated. not pure enough to be a real conservative, a Pierre Poilievre conservative. So with Mr. Reyes, there was a push at one point, if you remember. There was a text message that went out to a lot of his constituents that were sort of, the text message was very strongly encouraging people in the writing to make complaints and to state that they would maybe like to have a new person and not him. Just go back to that. This was September 14th, 2022, in the Canadian press here. A member who quit the Conservative caucus, says Pierre Poilievre's office, sent a text message to party members in his Quebec riding asking them to encourage him to resign. So he quit the Conservative caucus, and then the Conservative Party said, "Hey, that's a conservative seat." The people in that riding voted for. The people voted for a conservative. They did not vote for you, Alain Reyes. But when you go to vote and you look at the names on the ballot, you vote for the candidate. Legally, you vote for the candidate. So the conservatives acted like they were entitled. That seat is a conservative seat, not an Alain Reyes seat. And therefore, well, Alain Reyes betrayed all of you who voted for a conservative seat, not for Alain Reyes to be your member of parliament. And therefore, you should all be making his phone ring and encouraging him to resign so that we can have another election, I guess, and so that seat can remain a conservative seat and not the seat of the MP who actually ran in the election and whose name appeared on the ballot. Conservatives are a little entitled. So, yeah, um, the text message seen by the Canadian press, and please put a pin in this, what the text said, because this will come up again in the show. The text message said that Reyes has decided not to fight inflation with Poilievre's team and encouraged recipients to call the MP's office and tell him to resign. Reyes had no plan to resign at the moment. He was leaving caucus, but not leaving his seat, and still wanted to represent his constituents. So he thought that, interpreted the text message as an intimidation campaign, which it was. And here's the thing, is that the Conservative Party then apologized for the automated text message, they said, sent earlier in the day to party members. They said, "Oh, yeah, it was an automated text message that went out on its own. We never intended for that." And which also begged the question, as we said on the show, okay, if we accept that what you're saying is true, how did the text of the message get generated? Was that automatic too? Or was that somebody deliberately doing that? Because had nobody composed a text that could have accidentally, so we are supposed to believe, be sent in an automated manner, nothing would have happened. How did the text itself get generated? Oh, we don't know anything about that. But that was the first sign that this party was going to use intimidation against its own members. And then we found out during the course of the year that there were indeed a system of rewards and punishments for people who were not following the party line or were not taking the daily media lines and repeating them 5 times, who weren't expressing utmost confidence and admiration and everything for the leader, and who weren't being good conservatives, good Poilievre conservatives. So we heard about that. And then during the election campaign, we found out about other people who were annoyed with Pierre. And then Pierre lost. And then we heard more grumblings about people who were annoyed, particularly when Pierre decided he was going to stay on. But not enough, right? The line from the Conservative Party has been the line from the Conservative Party since Pierre came along. Pierre is inevitable. Are there any threats to his campaign, his leadership? Nah, there's no threats. Pierre's going to probably win that by-election in no problem flat. And he did, no problem flat, but nobody expected that an independent candidate would come out of everywhere and galvanize almost the entirety of the anti-Poilièvre vote. That sent a message. And now, uh, as we're getting close to the budget, well, Pierre does that thing with the RCMP, and then all of a sudden we start hearing articles about up to 5 Conservative MPs who saw that as a defining moment that might have confirmed any doubts they had with the leader. But none of them wanted to be identified. Kept on hearing there are at least 5 that have expressed off the record, on the record, without being one to be identified, however you look at that. That changed yesterday with Chris d'Entremont. Chris d'Entremont apparently had no problem having his name out there as one. Maybe he's one of the 5. Maybe he's not. Maybe he was a 6th one who just decided to go first. Who knows? But Chris d'Entremont, who had once been deputy speaker, would have loved to have been deputy speaker again. Well, it seems because Chris d'Entremont is a little bit more of a centrist conservative than a right-wing conservative, and therefore not pure enough. He did not get his party's backing to be put up as a potential deputy speaker. Well, you know that saying, be nice to people on the way up because you might see them on the way down? Guess you should have backed your candidate. Guess you should have gotten over your little bit of petulance that someone wasn't on his belly kissing your shoes and try to punish him for that. Because now you just got slapped right upside the head, didn't you? I mean, think about it. All the work that the Conservatives have put in over the past few weeks to demonize Carney and demonize the budget, right? Even like setting up this big elaborate scheme. Oh, well, as conservatives, we'd be happy to vote for the budget if it meets these conditions. One of them is that it can't have more than $42 billion in deficit, while we've been talking about doing, you know, building to reorient our entire economy, considering that which has been going on. And apparently conservatives believe that we can do that without spending money, which is dumb. It's just dumb. So we all knew that there was no way that the conservatives were going to support this because they put basically a poison pill condition that could just never be met and would not be met, and nobody even pretended was going to be met. So they put a lot of work into trying to get us to focus just on that last number. What that big number is, how much deficit would there be? Nothing else matters. How much deficit would that be? Oh my God, it's so much more. Oh, there goes inflation again. We're going to hell in a handbasket. Mark Carney, oh my God, what are you doing to us? Well, they could still do that, but I have a feeling that the message that the conservatives went out to push yesterday kind of became totally upended with them probably being asked a lot of questions. When I say probably, but I know. But let's just go probably. Being asked a lot of questions about the guy who left about the PeePee leak that just sprung in the CPC boat. I mean, in media, if it bleeds, it leads, right? The Conservative Party of Canada just bled a caucus member. Liberals need 3 defections or abstentions or whatever in order to get that budget to pass. 3 defections to the Liberal Party itself puts them in a majority government situation. Chris D'Entremont, when the news came out during our budget live show, there was some doubts as to whether or not he was removed from caucus or whether he voluntarily resigned from caucus. The first notes were that he was removed from caucus. But here's the thing, is that news that D'Entremont was considering going came out before the text of the budget was actually read. There was an article in Politico that showed up about 2 hours, around 2 p.m. in the afternoon, 2 hours before the official reading, stating that D'Entremont was considering crossing the floor to the Liberals, depending on what he sees in the budget. And then we got news that he had resigned. So we didn't know for sure whether or not he had been, just the fact that he had been considering, and that went to the press, got the Conservative Party to kick him out. Says, well, if you're considering, then let's help you with that decision. Bye. All right, that does happen. Or whether or not he had actually wrote a letter saying, "Yeah, you know what? I've seen the budget, and you know, uh, the election was in April, and we're in October. We're in November now. I've seen you go for the last 6 months or so, and yeah, I'm not seeing anything changing and anything positive. And I certainly, you know, Chris D'Entremont, to his credit, never got involved in all of those sort of right-wing dialogue type things. He didn't really participate in all of that. Um, so, which is why he was probably singled out as well for this type of special treatment by his own party. But he was clearly not feeling at home and not comfortable in the party, given how strident and angry and negative and weird and all that it's becoming. So he was considering and wanted to see what the other party was going to be offering. And it seems that it is indeed a resignation, not that he was booted out, that he has left. Now, when we found out that he left, like Alain Reyes, he fully intended to continue being an MP. So I was thinking, okay, well, watch the campaigns from the Conservatives to try to start get people. I was wondering if there was going to be another Alain Reyes type text message going out to his constituents saying, you should really be asking them to resign as an MP because you guys elected a conservative. You guys didn't elect Chris, or in this case, re-elect Chris, because you liked him in Nova Scotia, where the Poilièvre conservative brand isn't particularly strong to begin with. The Conservative Party, had they gone on with something like, hey, you voted for Conservative, not Chris, probably would have been very, 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 very wrong in that assessment. Some point during the course of the evening, it looked like D'Entremont was going to remain sitting as an independent, I guess, because uh, we had heard that he had considered crossing to the Liberals. And then when we heard his resignation, there wasn't an announcement, I have crossed over to the Liberals, right? There wasn't no images of him standing at a podium with some Liberals or Mark Carney beside him or something, and them let's try that again, and them welcoming him into the caucus. That's actually hard to say. But at some point, during the course of the day. It was indeed indicating that he left the Conservative Party to actually join the Liberal Party. To Politico, who broke the story, Mickey Jurek and Zian Lum, a Conservative MP has crossed the floor to join Canada's Liberal Party, moving Mark Carney one step closer to securing a majority government. The move reflects a concerted push from Liberals to ensure Carney's legislative agenda is safe until 2029, which is really important because, if we're going to be embarking on all these transformational changes and doing all this groundwork, right? The first 1 or 2 years of groundwork that are very, very important, that might not necessarily yield big results, but that set the stage for those results to come in later years. What's the point of doing all that work for a year and a half, two, then going into another election because you're in minority, maybe losing that, and then scrapping all of that work because the new party coming in decides that, no, we don't need to do that. All we just need to do is give another tax cut. Right? So, um, and we said this during the election, after the federal election results, that my disappointment was that it was a minority, in the sense that it doesn't give Mark Carney a solid 4 years without any doubt to really lay down the groundwork and start seeing some results, right? Like, for example, one of those, the high-speed train project, was to get construction started within 4 years rather than 8. Well, what a great thing it would be to do all this work, to have the major projects office, have the funding, reorient the economy, have the Conservatives say, oh, there's nothing there, it's just an office, another bureaucracy. And at the end of the 4 years, as you're going in to the election, there actually are shovels in the ground on the high-speed train. Promised it to you 4 years ago that I would start it in 4 and not 8, and here we are 4 years ago, and it has started along with it, right? Some of these projects are going to be able to start in a tangible way within a 4-year mandate. Not sure how many of them will be completed in terms of major projects. The port stuff in Montreal could indeed be completed and start shipping by then. So, we will be able to see a few of them, but will we see all of them? The stuff at Darlington, because some of that is already underway, we might start seeing some results. I'm not sure if the small reactor would be complete. I don't think the small reactor would be completely built in the next 4 years, but it could be very well underway, right? And you could have something that you can point to. So, and then you can run on that. So you really wanted 4 years. I mean, what Mark Carney is doing is presenting a plan that's, 8 to 10 years to fully develop. So, you want him to at least get the 4, and hopefully, if things are going well, then gets reelected to finish the plan. And then we can do that orientation. The last thing you want to do is take on a big reorientation of your economy and then interrupt it somewhere in the middle and have someone else, again, change all the cards or undo the work. Because this is work that we've needed to do for a long time, and we haven't. Because, well, we got inactive and lazy, because we had one big client south of us who was like, yeah, you got more? Sure, we'll take that. We'll take that. We'll take that. So we said, okay, sure. Let's sign another contract with this one client and put our feet up on our desk and our hands behind our head and pat ourselves on our backs for being such good economic managers and such stewards. Well, we're learning the limits of that, right? When you have one big supplier, as Mark Carney showed you, talked to us in that presentation clip that we showed yesterday. When something goes bad for it, that's unexpected, it really goes bad for you, right? You should never put all your eggs in one basket. So we're going to be making some changes. So yeah, Chris D'Entremont has moved over. Let's go back to the article. Quote, after serious consideration and thoughtful conversations with constituents and my family, I came to a clear conclusion. There's a better path forward for our country, Nova Scotia MP Chris D'Entremont said in a statement Tuesday. Prime Minister Mark Carney is offering that path. Earlier today, D'Entremont told Politico he was thinking about crossing the floor and that he would decide in the next few days after reviewing the federal budget. I guess he didn't need a few days. Shortly after the story was published, he resigned from the Conservative caucus and joined the Liberal Party. Quote, after 5 years of serving in opposition, the people of Acadie, Annapolis, and all Canadians know that the moment we face today needs all of us to lead, not with complaint, but with confidence in a strong future, Dr. Mott said in a statement. This is an important moment for the country to come together, and I am looking forward to working with the Prime Minister to build the strong economic future that all our communities deserve. The Conservative Party didn't respond to a request for comment. Mhm. D'Entremont had pointed to his narrow margin of victory in the last election. He beat the Liberal candidate by 1.1% and said he is looking at what's best for his constituents. If two more additional Conservative MPs joined the Liberals, Carney's majority would be secured. D'Entremont said the Liberals had been courting other Conservatives who viewed themselves as centrists, but he would not disclose who. Quote, you'd have to ask them, he said. He also declined to say who was doing the courting and whether or not conversations including the Prime Minister's office. Mr. D'Entremont, I would love to ask them. Could you supply me with a list of names of people to ask? No? Okay. Still keeping that part private. Okay. The Nova Scotia MP had a recent falling out with his party after its caucus refused to back him as Speaker for House of Commons, a position D'Entremont has sought more than once. He previously served as Deputy Speaker of the House. His views are more in step with Carney, who is seen as leaning further right than previous Liberal leaders. He's also well liked within the Liberal Party and is not known to buy into the right-wing populist movement that Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre embraces. D'Entremont's stunning comment came before Carney unveiled his first federal budget, which pledged generational investments and is up for a critical confidence vote in the House of Commons that could make or break his government. On that, it would appear that the first votes on the budget will not happen until sometime mid-November because they're not going to happen this week. And the next week happens to be a constituency week, so the House will not be sitting. So plenty of time for people to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about this budget by the time a first vote comes along, and plenty of time for a couple of other MPs to decide to defect, depending on what they hear in their constituencies during constituency week. My. What a conveniently chosen date to present the budget November 4th was. Clever. Scheduling it right before constituency week, giving it more time to settle and marinate in the minds of people who might be somewhat influential or critical in what the future of this government and the opposition party and opposition leader. Yeah. Interesting. All right. Let's see what else we have here. He did not sit. And a gentle correction on myself, it looks like he was running for full speaker and not just deputy speaker this time around. It's like, hey, I've been deputy. Yes, I've shown you I can do it. Let's put my name in for speaker. And it didn't happen. Okay. Let's see here. He did not sit with the Conservatives when the budget was read aloud in the House. He walked out of the House with the budget in his hand. Chris made a decision. Remember what we said about Alain Reyes when they said Alain decided not to fight inflation with Pierre Poilièvre? Here's what they say about Chris D'Entremont. Chris made a decision, and he made a decision not to fight inflation and not to lower the cost of food and not to do any of the things that he was sent here to do by his constituents, Conservative Party Deputy Leader Melissa Landsman said Tuesday. Because, yes, let's send the Deputy Leader out on the day that an MP, who was respected enough by his peers to be a Deputy Speaker of the House, just ups and leaves your party on budget day. The day that you had this big media splash ready to tell us just how terrible Carney is and how $78 billion is going to send us all spiraling to the poorhouse. Oh no, we can't do that today. Because we have to accuse one of now our former own of not wanting to fight inflation and not wanting to lower the cost of food and not wanting to represent his constituents. Some of his former colleagues expressed shock at the announcement. I just find it interesting that Alain Reyes was in 2022 and we're in 2025. And when somebody leaves the party, The line has not evolved in 3 years. Oh, well, I guess he didn't want to fight inflation. This party really needs a new act. Some of his former colleagues expressed shock at the announcement. Quote, "It is hard to find the words," Conservative MP David Bexty told reporters. Other Conservative MPs had only nice things to say about D'Entremont, with one MP comparing his defection to a divorce. Government Whip Mark Gerritsen said there is room for more additions. It's always lovely when a liberal shows up. When the Conservative vote springs a leak and the Liberals shows up with a lifeboat going, "Hey, anybody want to ride?" You don't even have to paddle. I'll bring you to shore. Oh my God. Oh, Government Whip Mark Garrison, my editorial edition, helpfully said there is room for more additions. Quote, pardon me, I laughed myself into a cough. Sorry, kids. Oh, there you go. I haven't done that for a while. Okay, let's try that again. Government Whip Mark Gerritsen said there is room for more additions. Quote, "We always have seats on our side for anybody who wants to join our party. We're a big tent party," Gerritsen said. Mm, Kitties, I think I detect shade. Oh, oh. When you have to end a sentence like that, there's room for everyone in our party. We're a big tent party. The unspoken part is, unlike those guys. Tiny, 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 tiny little tent. Tiny tent. Quote, "The reality is what we're seeing in the conservative political party is that the progressive movement is dead," he added. Chris D'Entremont is a progressive conservative and he's looking for a new home. Carney, a former central banker who campaigned on being a bulwark to Donald Trump, was elected in April with a minority government just 3 seats shy of a majority mandate. In recent weeks, Poilièvre, a right-wing populist leader, has faced criticism from within his caucus, from calling the past leadership of the National Police Force, quote, "despicable," accusing the former brass of covering up for then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's scandals. Oh, by the way, that word despicable, conservative MPs were using it against Supreme Court justice when they made that decision about mandatory minimums. Yeah. "Oh, justices are despicable." Rah, 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 rah. I, I, f- I, f- I keep on waiting for the Conservative Party to to do a commercial with Daffy Duck. Ah, despicable. At some point, because they're really behaving like cartoon characters here. It would be very fitting. Polyev later walked back the comments, but conservative MPs who lean moderate were put off by his comments. It exposed a rare sign of disagreement within the party's typically united front, and came as Polyev works to convince his party to keep him on as leader ahead of a leadership review in January. Oh, yes. What a wonderful thing, eh? We have a leadership review in January, November to December, December to January. Oh, that's in about 2 months or so. Oh, and MPs are leaving your ship as other people need to vote on whether or not you're a good fit to remain as leader. I'm sure that's the type of press that you want going into that type of event. Pierre's having a very bad last few weeks, isn't he? Ah, ah, this look, kids and cubs, that's Freud. Uncontrollable delight at the fact that things are not going well for Pierre Poilievre. I'm petty. What can I say? I'm not proud, but I own it. Oh my God. Trump's rise stateside killed Poilievre's favored odds of winning government earlier this year after voters chose Carney's economic credentials over the career conservative politician. Carney's rightward shift of the Liberal camp has served a strategic purpose by consciously distancing the current iteration of the Liberal Party from progressive predecessor Trudeau. Carney hopes to court more conservative support. And kids and cubs, stay tuned because uh, uh, it's quite possible that there may be more conservative support. Uh, the thing for me, there's a person, I'm not sure if they watch the show, but interact with us a lot on our social media feed. Hello, Kit Michael, by the way, if you are watching. And, we were discussing possible defections, and we had sort of arrived to a mutual agreement that would they happen before or after the leadership race, in the sense that leadership confirmation vote, in that we have the vote and Pierre is confirmed as leader, and then like three or four of them go, oh God, hell no, we are not doing this for another 3 years. Bye. Or would it happen before the leadership review? Now, when we were talking before the leadership review, however, the possibility of before the budget never entered into either of ours' minds. So that it's happening already substantially increases the odds that two more could defect before the leadership vote. And were that to happen, then, well, what would be the point in holding a leadership vote? I mean, if Pierre, under his leadership as a recycled leader of the opposition, because he didn't win a seat the first time and then had to go get a do-over. So in his second time around as a leader of the party, leader of the opposition, I should say, not leader of the party, but second go as leader of the opposition, one of the first things that he does is go and lose about 3 MPs and turn the shiniest silver medal in political history into a majority Carney government. Seems to me that do you think that this guy is an exceptionally wonderful and fantastic leader, the person that we need to stay with for the next 3 years to lead us into the next election and finally defeat the liberals? Um, no. I'd be jumping from that shit really, really quickly. Clearly not the guy. If Pierre Poilievre manages to be the conservative, the once undeniable, inevitable leader of this country, who then loses his seat, gets a do-over, and then after that loses 3 MPs to hand the minority government a majority, he's got to go. That's basically people writing him from his own party, writing him his own pink slip and saying, get the fuck out yesterday. Again, not that I'll be devastated, but ooh, darlings, we have drama. Clutch pearls. Mm, 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 mm. Sometimes I wonder if I'm a bad person because I delight so much in this. And then I have some chocolate and the moment passes. Okay, so we have Kit Argosy going, a smiling beaver is the best beaver. Isn't it though? Isn't it though? I don't know. It's like Christmas came a month early. Budget time. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Oh, bad things happen to conservatives, make beavers happy. It's just it's chemistry, physics. It's just science. It's just science. It's a natural reaction. Nothing can stop it. Bad things happening to PeePee conservatives in particular makes the beaver particularly happy. It's like a little booster of happiness. It's happy news to start with, but then seeing PeePee get his own comeuppance, just, I don't know, just like a little extra jolt of electricity to it. I cannot listen. This is a terrible thing to happen to any party, objectively. But I'm sorry. I would like to be a better person, but I cannot bring myself to feel sadness for people who behave like terrible people. I'm not going to say that the Conservative Party politicians are terrible people. I would like still to believe the Pollyanna in me that these are people who, in normal circumstances, would be fine and decent and all of that. But power being just that close sometimes does things to people, makes them make choices that they maybe would not make in other circumstances if the prize was not so big. Uh, I think that I would like to believe that there are a certain number of people that have temporarily taken leave from their senses and moral compass because victory was at hand. And who might wake up one day thinking, "Ooh, gee, that's gonna be on my file forever, isn't it? I might have been wise to make better choices somewhere along the way." We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, conservatives not having a good moment. Uh, Speaking of, let's take a little look at Melissa Landsman since we were talking about her. We're going to be able to see that answer that she gave, but I want to I want you to look at this interview with her from a certain perspective because I want you to look more at her behavior, how it is that she carries herself in this interview, and how would I put it? Uh, she really, really, really does not want to be talking about this at all. At all. Uh, and I would just want you to take a look at the behavior specifically. The answers, you have a little bit of an idea of what the answers are going to be, right? I mean, she started, well, I guess he decided that he did not want to fight inflation. Um, right. And that's not, that just seems to be a go-to that the party has in their filing cabinet somewhere. Oh, somebody left us. I guess they don't want to fight inflation. Just go out and say that. But take a look at the interview. Um, Look at things like when she starts talking, when she starts answering, uh, uh, the things that she slides into the answer, and then uh, when you have an interviewer and an interviewee, there's a dance that happens with the questions and the back and forth. And watch her, especially at the beginning, really, really, really. Um, if for any of you who have some ballroom dancing experience, really trying to lead from the follow position, or as some of us would say in the gay community, trying to top from the bottom. All right. Uh, Kids and Cubs, for your, um, I'm not sure if I could say viewing pleasure, but for your edification, the one of the deputy leaders of the Conservative Party of Canada,
the deputy leader of the Conservative Party is getting wired up right now, and I'm hoping Melissa Landsman can answer some very specific questions. Oh, awesome. I think you're there and ready to go, Melissa Landsman. What's going on with Chris D'Entremont?
We're not talking about the budget.
We'll get to that.
I would hope we could take a few minutes to talk about
we absolutely will.
Generational debt that we've just been piled.
Well, we will.
All right. So right off the bat, trying to present herself as being humorous. I hope we have time, but right away criticizing the journalist for wanting to ask about the thing that bleeds, which usually leads on the budget. Right? Like this, and then throwing in there, oh my God, that generational deficit, right? Just throwing. So she really does not want to be there participating in this. Let's keep going.
But let's just talk about the sudden resignation. Chris D'Entremont has resigned from your caucus. What is the view from your office there?
Look, Chris has, like Lisa said, Chris has made a choice, and I think the choice is, not to fight inflation, not to fight to lower grocery prices and lower the cost of homes like his constituents elected him to do. And I suspect that if Chris was deputy speaker, that he probably wouldn't resign.
Okay. Notice that. Right? Chris never said they had no intention to fight these things. And again, if he had gotten how petty of him because he didn't get to be deputy speaker that he's leaving. Not how petty of us not wanting to put Chris's name on the list in order to be speaker or deputy speaker. Because he doesn't praise the leader enough.
Okay, so I get the pushback, but just help me walk me through the process. Was there a warning that Mr. D'Entremont was feeling this way, or did you learn about it in the Politico article?
Yeah.
Okay, notice here, right? Let's go back to how this happened. Doesn't even get to finish the question. She just jumps on top of him.
This is Chris's decision, so I think you can ask him how that all came to be. I certainly didn't know about it, but I'm telling you that Chris made a choice today not to fight for what his constituents sent him here to fight for.
Okay, so I will not let you ask your question, for which I do not have an answer. Let me repeat the same tired media line. Now, she's hoping that this will be done now, by having shutted it down like this. Let's see if that worked out for her.
Is it your understanding that he is sitting as an independent?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what the letter says. Maybe you can tell me, or if there's a letter.
Well, I do.
Okay, that was not a good one. I don't know what the letter says. Maybe you could tell me if there's even a letter. Journalist is now hiding stuff from us. The implication, but she doesn't know much at all, clearly, or she knows a lot and she just doesn't want to say, but she's skating here and it's not working out for her.
I did not know this either. I was texting with people in Mr. Poilièvre's office saying we heard he's getting thrown out and that it's happening now.
He certainly wasn't thrown out. Let's
again, not letting him finish.
Let's make that clear.
I know, but the point is that I was told that he has resigned from the Conservative caucus, but not as a member of Parliament. You're understanding he is still.
That is my understanding. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we obviously need Chris D'Entremont to come down, but this is not a good thing to have happen, Ms. Landsman. That for the Conservatives, the Liberals need 3 votes to get this budget through. Your leader has a leadership review coming up, and here you have one of your few Atlantic MPs leaving.
Yeah. Well.
So this is the second time she hoped that the subject would be over by now in this interview, and it keeps going.
Look, I don't think those things are necessarily connected. I think Chris.
Oh, those things are connected.
There's a lot of time to figure out how he's going to vote on the budget. He ran on predicated on the fact that he was going to make life more affordable for Canadians. If that's what he is going to do, then I can't see how he possibly votes for this budget. But I think time will tell on that, and we can talk about all of the speculation about who votes how. But today we can talk about this budget, which I think was a really expensive one and a really long speech as well. So we heard.
So if you see what she did there, she is now taking control of the interview like she is the interviewer, and she's trying to direct it so that the next question she gets is a question she actually wants, where she can start saying things about the Liberals. She is a very unpleasant person.
At all. I think you read the budget into the record.
Well, you know, it is the moment for the finance minister today.
It's a lot of moments.
But the deficit, $78.3 billion this year. It's not the $100 billion that some projections had. It is right around that 75
Well,
to
I don't
80.
think you get a prize for not.
And again, now that she has the interview on the subject that she would prefer, she still won't let him finish the question so that she can get her lines in. She's a very, very, very rude guest.
Being 100 billion.
No. But it's in that 75 to 80 billion sort of range, well above the 42 billion that your leader put on the table, and the carbon, the industrial
above
carbon,
the 60 that he promised. Also, just in the election campaign, he costed his platform at about $60 billion, and he broke that promise too. Well above what every family can afford. This is $90 billion in new spending. It's $300 billion of new debt at the end of that 5-year cycle, which is $20,000 per family of new debt in this country.
You'll notice that she did it again in that answer. Cut him off and then went into her pre-prepared lines. It's like watching I don't want to say two chihuahuas, because in the sense that I don't want to insult David Cochran as a chihuahua. But it's like watching two squirrels or something like that fight for dominance or something. Right? She wants to dominate this interview. She wants to run this interview. She wants questions only that she wants, that open up the doors for her to say all the terrible things about liberal budgeting, all the typical CPC, well-worn, tired lines that we know. But she doesn't actually want to participate in an interview or discussion for the sake of informing the Canadian public. Right? This is be aggressive, be assertive, try to dominate the interview. Do not let the journalist do what the journalist wants to accomplish here. And if I can, try to do the journalist job for them.
Well,
this is the biggest. This is the biggest budget outside of COVID. It is double what the last prime minister, who actually spent more than all prime ministers combined in his tenure.
There's actually about $154 billion in new spending, but it's offset a little bit by about $50 to $60 billion in reductions.
That's right.
So it nets out to a $90 billion increase, but the spending goes even beyond that.
That's right. And if he doesn't make, if he doesn't make those the cuts that he says he's going to make, then we can be in the $100 billion range.
But
now you notice Cochran's starting to get frustrated with her. You can see it in the body language because she keeps on cutting him off.
Sort of the assessment, I know the conservative view is different than this, but a lot of economists, and we heard from the central bank, from Tiff Macklem, that monetary policy has done all it can to deal with what's happening with Donald Trump. Fiscal policy and industrial policy need to take the lead here to sort of help give the economy the tools it needs to reorient itself, and workers and businesses the supports they need to survive. So that is a big part of what's happening here. Is there any value in that you see as you look through the measures on like the tax side?
I think there are lots of ways that you can get that done. You can get the regulations out of way. You can rather than raising the industrial carbon tax, you can lower the industrial carbon tax, or frankly scrap it altogether. You can get rid of the stuff that stops us from building what we need to build in this country. But more importantly, if you're a Canadian looking at this, who has been struggling to put food on the table, who's been struggling to put a roof over their head, who has been struggling with the affordability of everyday life, there is nothing in this budget for you. And I think Canadians right across the country, from coast to coast to coast, are going to look at it and say, what about me? What are they doing to help me today? And I think that's what we're hearing from coast to coast, and I think that's what every other opposition party will hear when they speak to Canadians. Yeah,
there is a list of affordability measures in the budget on page 24, but it is things that we have heard prior to budget day, right? The elimination of the carbon tax.
And today...
Okay, as she does it again, cuts him off again, won't let him put any type of narrative. I want you to look at her body language, the way that she is sitting right now. And this is another indication that she does not want to be there. The bottom half of her body is facing close to camera, but from the waist up, she's twisted like this. And then her shoulders are back this way from him. She's creating physical distance from him. This is body language that indicates that you know that you're in for questions that you don't like, and you are bracing yourself so that you can right? This type of behavior, this type of body language is, I'm trying to create distance. I'm trying to push you away. So she really, really, really does not want to be there. And really, shouldn't it be Pierre there taking these questions? Pierre just handed to her. Like, I'm very hard on her. I'm very hard on her. I don't like her. But in this case, Pierre should be the one being accountable, sitting there. And he just sloughed off the shit job onto her. So she probably doesn't want to be there for two reasons. She doesn't want to be there because something happened in the party that takes away their thunder for the day. But she probably doesn't also want to be there because it should be Pierre who's sitting there, not her, taking this.
Life is worse than when we heard those. So, they haven't answered the call for affordability.
Well, I mean, I know your point that it's a different deficit and a different approach than what we saw in the election, but a lot has happened since March and then April 28th with the vote, so you need to adjust to the circumstances. Is there no justification, in your view, to move in the direction they've moved and add to the deficit?
These are Mark Carney's promises. He promised that we would have a fastest growing economy in the G7, and in fact, their words don't match what's actually in the math of their budget because.
You will notice here that she does not answer the question. She just goes right into the media lines. He's asking, things have changed. Is there anything on the ground that would lead you to believe that any of this could be necessary? Mark Carney promised. but he promised is literally what they are reduced to.
Their budget clearly outlines that investment is fleeing this country every quarter until the end of the year since he's been prime minister. He said that he would have the lowest debt to GDP ratio. He just changed the word debt to deficit, and he's revised that anchor. Mm-hmm. So that's not there anymore. These are Mark Carney's promises. They're not my promises, and they're what Canadians expected. So if you're going to measure him against his expectations, I think he's failed that test with this budget.
Okay, so it's very clear then the Conservatives will be voting against.
We cannot support this budget. We cannot support doubling the deficit, doubling the debt in this country, and not a single measure of affordability for anyone who is desperately asking for it in Canada. Okay,
but the counterfactual on the other 2 points you raised there, getting the deficit down to the $42 billion means either much larger cuts to the civil service, well beyond the 16,000 full-time equivalent jobs they're eliminating here, orders of magnitude beyond that, or not doing the infrastructure investment, the tax incentives that they're doing, because there's a cost to those. So how do you get the deficit down to a level that you would be comfortable with without taking the axe even deeper or not doing the incentive programs?
Well, look, I think there's lots of time to talk about what exactly the details of the budget in terms of consultants, in terms of foreign aid funding, in terms of how much further you can cut those things. But I think what's important here is to tell Canadians who desperately asked for measures of affordability to lower the price of food, to lower the price of homes, to lower the price of gas, that none of this is going to happen because the fundamentals are still here. It's the same ministers making the same policies, making the same promises 10 years later. They promised you investment 10 years ago.
You talk about regulation, though. They are laying out a path to get rid of or just never implement the oil and gas emissions cap. But it hinges on, hang on, just so the audience can follow along. It hinges on the
finally
agreement of a 2030 to 2050 trajectory on industrial carbon pricing. I know you don't like the emissions cap. I know you don't like industrial carbon pricing. Is there a climate policy that you would support?
So look, they could have said today that they would get rid of the emissions cap.
I guess the answer on that is no. Right? She doesn't even engage with the question.
They could have said today that they could get rid of the EV mandates. They could have said today that they would lower instead of increase the industrial carbon tax, which, by the way, is directly responsible for the rise in food and housing and everything we build.
No, that's not like there is no the economic analysis on the impact on food puts it at 0.5 to 0.8%. This is what Trevor Toome and others
So you're
looked at.
telling me that the industrial carbon tax on fertilizer, on fuel, on farming equipment does not pass down in the price of food
97%
at all.
of emissions on a farm are exempt from
I
the
don't
carbon
know
tax.
how you can look Canadians in the eye and say that the price of food hasn't skyrocketed and these are the reasons for it.
Well, the price of food has skyrocketed.
Packaging taxes.
Well, there's also currency changes. There's climate change that has led to drought.
You're a better defender of the government's budget than they are.
I have read Trevor Toome's analysis, and I go with the experts on this. Like I think anyway, they are looking.
See? That whole moment. And look at her. She is happy now. It's the first time she hasn't been completely stone-faced. She drew the journalist onto her terrain, debating one in front. She's saying all these talking points that her party is famous for that are ultimately meaningless. This accuses the journalist of defending the government policy, comes back saying, no, I'm relating what I've learned from experts. And then he just like, yeah, just he's already done with her. He's already done with her. Let's see how it keeps going.
Looking at this as the backbone now of a new climate policy from 2030 to 2050. You're not going to support that, even if this is something with methane reduction and carbon capture can allow oil and gas production to go
With what this budget
ahead.
has put forward in terms of the generational debt and the deficits that we're seeing, we cannot support this budget, and Conservatives will not support this budget.
Okay, one last question. I'm going to circle back to Chris d'Entremont.
Oh, she's not going to be happy about that.
I know you haven't spoken to him. He obviously has been speaking to the Liberals in some capacity in the run-up to this, and he suggests that either the Prime Minister's office or people on the PMO's behalf have been speaking to other members of your caucus. Are you worried that there could be more Chris d'Entremonts in the coming days?
Well, look, I have no idea if any of that is true. If you have any names, we can talk about those.
She knows it's true. You don't stammer through that if you don't know it's true. And again, trying to put it on the journalist, right? If you know any names, so it can't be real. But if you know any names, please put them out there. Just, I really do not like her.
No,
we can
and
talk
just
about
going
those,
with the reporting.
Yeah, so those are rumors. But I would say again on Chris, he's made a choice today, and that choice is not to stand up for the constituents that sent him here.
Melissa Lantsman, Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party, we appreciate the time.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming in. Green.
So, those are just rumors. Yeah, well, those were rumors also before Chris d'Entremont decided he was going to cross the floor. And the rumor ended up being true. So we had a rumor that ended up proving true. There are more. Those are just rumors. Okay, so how many more days before you're back here in the seat again? We're having this conversation all over again, except talking about another MP rather than Chris d'Entremont. I cannot stand her. Imagine doing an interview with someone and never, ever being able to finish a question or a thought because she keeps on jumping over you. Imagine doing all the hard work and doing all the research and having someone come in, oh, well, you're just defending liberal government policy. Just being dismissed like that. Imagine someone turn, oh, well, I'm going to try to make you look foolish during your own interview. Like this. And when she actually manages to drag you onto her terrain, after everything that you've done to try to maintain the focus of the interview, and then see her start smiling. Yeah, no, I got you. What a horrible human being. What a horrible human being. Yeah, you're right, Kid-Peensy. The journalist should sit there and pick on the complete inconsistency of their position. It changes depending on the question. It does. It does. Notice that he's telling, all this stuff causes food inflation. Yeah, but there are droughts and whatnot. No, don't want to recognize that. Is there any climate policy whatsoever you'd support? Let's talk about something else. They've got nothing. And on top of that, they're talking about there's no measures for affordability, like the conservatives have any measures for affordability. Cut the carbon tax. You'll be able to afford food again. Oh my God, the cost of food didn't go down. Well, it's because there's all these other taxes. 97% of activities on a farm are exempt. But oh my God, those 3%. Oh boy, wow. They just will not acknowledge. They just will not acknowledge reality as it is. The only reality they acknowledge is the one that they've constructed. Chris D'Entremont no longer wants to fight inflation. Or maybe he wants to fight inflation. He just thinks that the way that you're doing it sucks and he found a better way. That's also a possibility, isn't it? See, the conservative political ethos is to always present you with either a sort of inevitable destination to where something, where things lead that is terrible, or to present you with only a binary choice, and both of them are terrible options. Either he's stupid or he's incompetent, right? Those types of choices, right? Y- it can't be that maybe he just forgot. He has to be either stupid or incompetent. It has to be negative, or it has to be something about someone's skills or abilities to diminish them. It couldn't have been, oh, he just forgot. It couldn't have been, oh, yeah, he remembered, but he got distracted. Couldn't remember, couldn't be, well, he's neither stupid nor incompetent. He took a calculated risk that he put a lot of thought into it, but it didn't pan out. It's also a possibility. There's so many possibilities on the spectrum, but the conservatives always want to lead you. Everything is a binary choice. You live in a world with only two options. You could do this great thing that we propose or this terrible thing the other propose. Or if you go with they propose, it's either going to end up in terrible thing one or terrible thing two. No other possible outcomes. Everything is formed and shaped that way. Conservatives are inherently limited. They want you to live in a very limited reality in which the only good things that happen are things that conservatives spearhead. All the bad things are things that progressives do. And if a progressive does something, it leads down either one of two paths, both of them are bad. It's always the same thing. That basic formulation never, ever, ever changes. You can only go so far with that because it's limited. It's limited. All right. Let's see. What do we have? There we go. She says nothing to back up why she doesn't support same bullshit propaganda answers for every question. Indeed. Indeed. He playing with 3D. Yeah, she pulled him into her trap, and the cons will use this as CBC being on the government mouthpiece. Game on. Kit PNC Bio. Doesn't matter what the actual facts are. Kit Crystal. I don't know how you can look Canadians in the eye and say things you never said. Really? Kit PNC. I've never heard anyone responding to a factual argument with, but it feels like it's this. Wow. Whew. Man. Yep. Gee. All right. Kids and Cubs. Let's look at some other stuff within it. For those who didn't watch our special yesterday, some quick highlights. The government, as courtesy of Catherine Tunney, CBC News. Prime Minister's, here are some highlights from the budget. It was a 406-page document, which is why you have people in lockup for many, many hours before. That's how the news can come out as the budget is being read, what the deficit is and whatnot, because journalists have been in a pen with the document all day, all morning, and they get to take notes and all afternoon, and then come out around 4 o'clock and then start giving us their synopsis of what it is that they've read. But the budget projects a deficit of $78 billion for 2025-2026, which is forecast to drop to $65 billion the next fiscal year, then gradually fall to $57 billion in 2029-30. The budget pledges to balance operational spending in 3 years. And if you look at the graphics on this, how that one is particularly, you can really see the visual representation of what it is that they are talking about here. And I'm going to show you this graphic. We have a bar graph with two colors, sort of charcoal and robin egg blue. And you've got the 5 coming years. And you will see here that this is how much, the charcoal is how much we're spending on capital investment. This is the day-to-day operating deficit that from at least the fiscal 25-26 to 26-27, there is going to be huge cuts here. So we're going to feel most of the pressure between this period of time, between 2025, let's say fiscal 2020-25 and end of fiscal 2027 is where you're going to see. No, sorry, I shouldn't say that. That's incorrect. Sorry. From 2025 to 2026, you're going to see probably greater than 2/3 of the cuts that have been identified so far implemented in the first year, and then much more slowly implemented after that. Here, you can see capital investment taking a decent boost in 2026-2027, and then remaining somewhat constant year over year. So the difference here that you see between where the bar ends in 2025-2026 and how high it goes in 2026-2027, this is now a permanent feature for the next 4 years in increased capital investment spending. So I like this graph because it gives you a visual representation of what, when Prime Minister Carney says spend less, which is the blue, in order to invest more, which is the charcoal here. And you can see it very, very clearly in this representation. I like this one. It's particularly well done. All right. What else do we have here? So the budget pledges to balance operational spending in 3 years, as we showed. Still, this year's deficit is far more than the $42 billion the last Liberal government promised it would be, and what the Conservatives said they would be willing to support. Budget also calls for some $141 billion in new spending, as David Cochrane mentioned, but it would be offset by billions in cuts and other savings. And when they did their comprehensive expenditure review, they have found up to $60 billion over 5 years that can be saved. The plan will save about $13 billion annually by 2028 to 2027. And so when you add other savings and revenues, so there'll be about $60 billion that offsets that $114 billion for 141 in new spending. So it ends up being really about 81, if all of this gets implemented, $81 billion in new spending over the next 5 years, which we definitely have the fiscal capacity to handle, according to 2 former parliamentary budget officers, 1 former assistant parliamentary budget officer, and also high-level officials at the International Monetary Fund, regardless of what Conservatives say. The budget promises more taxpayer dollars will go towards nation-building infrastructure, clean energy, innovation, productivity, and less on day-to-day operating spending. This new discipline will help protect social benefits the budget promises. The public service will see a drop of about 40,000 positions over the coming years. And for those who are wondering about that, the size of the federal public service had already started to decrease. So this is not something that's starting this year and is going to take a hit, but this is something that has already definitely started. So if we look at this graph here, you'll see we reached peak public service employment in 2024 where we had, I think we're looking at close to 400,000 positions, just under. And you will see that there's already been a big drop of at least 10,000 positions from 2024, 2025. And that trend line is going to continue here. So we're going to have, we dropped to about 368,000 last year, and it's going to go down to about 330,000 once everything is said and done. The government is saying that they can achieve this through attrition and through things like golden shoots, anticipated retirement packages, without having to cut uh, actual, without having to have the public service actually bleed. They also have a hiring program here that's going to make sure that there's still room and focus to bring in younger people, some fresher blood into the public service. But also, that the Prime Minister is talking a lot about using AI and other stuff like that to improve the efficiency. And for example, one of the moves that the federal government has announced that, for example, for 5.5 million Canadians who have the easiest to file tax forms, because most often they will end up getting a refund because, for all intents and purposes, they don't generate enough revenue, they don't make enough money in order to be able to pay taxes, higher income taxes. Pardon me, kids and cubs, I have to go off camera for a second. I have something in my eye. I will be right back. There we go. Sorry about that. I was blinking a little weird, trying to get that speck of dust out of my eye, and it was not working. All right. So, yeah, when we're talking about those tax filings, um, the people that have the easiest to file tax forms, um, those forms can essentially be auto generated through AI and whatever, right? And these people, by doing that, will be entitled. No, will not be entitled. Let me put it this way, because they were always entitled, will now be able to get every deduction and government dollar that is supposed to come to them. Some people don't fill out their forms. Some people, whatever the reason, or don't know about a certain benefit, so they don't tick the box, whatnot, and then they don't get it. So it was always for you to have to proactively opt in to whatever benefits that you could receive that you were entitled for. You had to identify, yeah, I'm here and I'm eligible for that benefit. Please give it to me. That is not going to happen anymore for them, right? They're automatically going to be deemed eligible, and the box will be ticked off for them. All those tax forms don't necessarily need to be reviewed, other than sort of, I guess, some type of perfunctory review to make sure that whatever computer system is doing this is working properly. But other than that, well, that's a lot of staff that can be freed up to do something else. Or if you're making these cuts through attrition or golden parachutes, these are tasks that no longer need to be done by humans. So it is, I do see a scenario where it is indeed possible that the federal government will be able to reduce the public service workforce by that amount without having too big a drop in service, or without having to cut major programs. Um, all the promises that the federal government made about keeping dental care, pharmacare, child care, transfers to the provinces intact, those were all kept and maintained. The government, when they said there would be no surprises, there were no surprises in that front for Canadians. So that's a positive aspect of the budget. All right. In terms of supercharging growth and competition, is where they want to go. To confront an anemic economic picture, the government says it's supercharging growth and vows to make Canada's investment environment more competitive than the US. To that end, the budget brings forward a productivity superdeduction tax measure that will allow companies to write off larger shares of capital investment more quickly. These are also new measures specifically for writing off expenditures for manufacturing or processing buildings, or a new capital cost allowance for liquefied natural gas (LNG) equipment and related buildings. These are tax measures. Like, for example, if you were going to here uh, build an actual building, erect a building to have where manufacturing is going to be taking place, that you would be able to write off the costs of building that building, of erecting that building, I should say, um, in a much, much shorter period of time. I think maybe even like in the first year. So that will create a situation where the taxation rate for that type of stuff will come way below that which is in the United States, like way below. And that's a way for us through tax policy to try to buffer ourselves against what the United States is doing in terms of trying to decimate our manufacturing sector. So we're presenting a very significant tax incentive by making that change for people to reevaluate not coming to Canada instead. Since campaigning in the surprise Liberal leadership race earlier this year, Carney has promised to build projects with speed in Canada. His marquee policy, the Major Projects Office, is already up and running. The budget provides $214 million over 5 years and eyes improving critical mineral projects next, as well as getting construction on the high-speed railway from Toronto to Quebec City started in 4 years instead of the previously planned 8. The budget also includes $51 billion over 10 years for local infrastructure, such as housing, roads, wastewater and water, health facilities, things of the like. The government said this will create thousands of jobs. Now, the government had also announced that there would be an immigration plan announced in the budget, and it was definitely there. The new plan proposes to drastically reduce the target for new temporary residence admissions from 673,650 in 2025 to 385,000 in 2026. The 2026-2028 immigration levels plan would keep permanent residence admission targets at 380,000 per year, down from 395,000 per year in 2025. And here we have, again, a graphic representation of this for you to show, kits and cubs. What's in gray is the previous, and what's in red is the new plan. So there we go here. Previous plan would have brought in 516,600, all categories combined in 2026. This will go down to 385,000, and in 2027, it was planned to be 543,600 to start growing again. It's going to drop from 385,000 to 370,000 and be maintained there. So that's the plan for the moment. Also, the plan has already started to yield benefits and impacts because I think, as we mentioned on a previous show, Kids and Cubs, the amount of, I think it was the asylum claims, I believe the number of asylum claims, if I remember correctly, has dropped 70%. And the number of, I think it is students here on a temporary permits, I believe, has dropped 30% there. And it seems I saw something today as well indicating that the moves that have been made so far already do seem to be well received by the Canadian public and are boosting confidence in the Canadian public, or the Canadian public's confidence that the Liberals might actually be doing a good job at getting this back under control. This is according to the Toronto Star here. Let's see if there's a Nicholas Kung, who's the senior immigration reporter, says that this is results that are based on public opinion polling here. So that the Liberal Party has restored some Canadians' confidence in its ability to manage immigration through a majority, though a majority still believe the Conservatives are better equipped to fix the beleaguered system, according to a new poll. A year after implementing some seismic policy changes to reduce immigration intakes, the Liberals are closing the gap with the opposition Conservatives in a public perception of their ability to handle a system what many view as broken, said the Abacus data survey published on the eve of the release of Ottawa's 26-28 immigration levels plan on Tuesday. And this is interesting that it's coming from Abacus, because Abacus is the polling company that even throughout the election campaign and soon after has been showing the Conservatives closest to the Liberals and sometimes even ahead of them as a party since the election. Overall, 38% of Canadians favored the Conservatives to stick-handle the issue compared to 29% for Liberals. However, the Liberal score has risen 13 percentage points on that question in the past year, while those expressing confidence in the Conservatives only grew by 4 percentage points, said the poll for the Toronto Star. It does show how much former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau affected people's perceptions, said David Coletto, Abacus chair and CEO. Quote, now that he's gone and the government has continued to follow through on that more restrictive immigration policy, they've kind of returned to a more normal place. Rapid population growth as a result of high immigration dominated political debates over the last 2 years, and public concerns about lagging housing, healthcare, and other social services have prompted the Liberal government to make drastic cuts in the admission of both permanent and temporary residents, including foreign students and workers. Immigration applicants are also faced with backlogs and long processing times. While 49% of Canadians, virtually unchanged from 50% last November, continue to view immigration through a negative lens, attitudes have largely stabilized, said Coletto, with 26% of people expressing positive feelings towards immigration in Canada. Sentiment remains most negative among older Canadians and Conservative voters, while younger Canadians and Liberal supporters are more positive about immigration. Despite the lower permanent resident intake from 500,000 in 2024 to 385,000 this year, 67% of people still said the target is too high. That percentage was down modestly from 72% a year ago. Quote, heading into a budget that will set a new immigration plan, the government is navigating a delicate balance, said Coletto. Canadians continue to see immigration through the lens of scarcity, too few homes, too much strain on public services, and a labor market that feels stretched. The public pressure is clearly on restraint, not expansion. When asked about the impact of immigration, majorities continue to link it to rising housing costs, 69%, pressure on healthcare, 60%, and strain on social services, 58%, all largely unchanged from 2024. Yet there are modest declines in the share saying immigration is bad for Canada. 51% now says it makes the country worse off, down from 53% last year. Canadians still recognize immigration's benefits. 35% of people said immigrants help fill labor shortages, 26% said they contribute to economic growth, and 24% said they support an aging population. Quote, I don't foresee immigration dissipating as an issue that's salient to a lot of Canadians or getting back on the road to building consensus again on this. This is going to require some of those pain points like housing, access, and healthcare. People need to believe that those things are improving before they're going to be open to welcoming more people into the country again. This interviewed 2,902 Canadians from October 24th to 29th with a margin of error of 1.81 percentage points, 19 times out of 20. The data were weighed according to census data to ensure that the sample matched Canada's population according to age, gender, and region. The Abacus survey findings were consistent with a recent Environics Institute poll that found 66% of Canadians. Let me try that again. The Abacus survey findings were consistent with a recent Environics Institute poll that found 56% of Canadians believe the country accepts too many immigrants, declining by 2 percentage points from last year after a dramatic increase in the negative sentiments between 2022 and 2024. So, gaining some ground on that important file, which also factors in probably to the Conservative Party's desire to seek or not, to want or not, an election sooner rather than later. Back to highlights from the budget here. Let's see, do we have here? To fill labor gaps, the Liberals' plan includes a foreign credential recognition action fund to work with the provinces and territories to improve transparency, timeliness, and consistency of foreign credential recognition. It would also launch what's a strategy to attract international talent. There's $1 billion set aside for a one-time initiative to recruit over 1,000 highly qualified international researchers to Canada, something I very much support and we've been calling a lot before on the show, because the future is not only AI, but IP. And Canada also needs to become a superpower when it comes to a place where patents can be earned and intellectual property can be established. The budget pledges a consequential increase in defense spending. $9.3 billion had already been pledged after the Prime Minister promised to meet NATO's target for 2% of GDP spending by March 31st and 5% by 2035. Budget 2025 earmarks $81.8 billion for defense over 5 years, roughly $72 billion of which is new money. It details more than $20 billion over 5 years to recruit and retrain Canadian Armed Forces members and another $19 billion over the same time period to sustain Canadian Armed Forces capabilities and invest in defense infrastructure. The Communications Security Establishment, the government's foreign signal intelligence agency, is also getting billions to boost its digital infrastructure, including what's needed for modern warfare, such as cyber defense. One of the looming questions heading into the budget was whether Carney would scrap the oil and gas emissions cap. The budget said effective carbon markets, enhanced oil, gas, methane regulations, and the deployment at scale of technologies such as carbon capture and storage, quote, would create the circumstances whereby the oil and gas emissions cap would no longer be required. The draft policy was released last year, but never implemented at the moment. I didn't hear anything yesterday specifically about, I would have put, there wasn't a part in the budget that said, that climate competitiveness strategy that we've been saying would be in the budget. Here's what it is specifically in the text of the budget. I'd probably have to go to the document itself, the 406-page document itself, to try to find something of that sort. But still, as we've been noticing in the manner that the plans were being laid out for the public to see, particularly with the Major Projects Office, we're seeing here, we could see where green policy had been embedded in every single aspect there, which was very important. There was something I saw at one point, and unfortunately, it seems I did not note it well enough, so I'm going to have to look at it again. Unfortunately, I'm so sorry. But they were explaining this climate policy. There's a specific project. I believe I heard it from Bill Kelly, if I'm not mistaken. But there is a specific project out there where there are going to be incentives provided by the government for this project to do it. And now, normally, when we provide tax incentives, so if you produce X number of units, we'll give you that, right? We saw that with Stellantis and the EV. Those things were tied, unlike before, they were just given, they were tied to the actual output. If the output happened, you would get them, right? This is a very similar thing, but the incentives that are going to be distributed by the government are going to be based on actual reductions of GHG emissions or methane emissions and that type of stuff. So the way that we were doing things is that we would offer people incentives first, and then they would take them, and then they would go about and do their business. And if they'd never gotten around to do the climate stuff or whatnot, well, they had already gotten the incentive. The incentives here, it seems, are going to be tied to performance. So in other words, oil company X, if you reduce your methane emissions by 10% this year, you will be entitled to this type of financial incentive, rather than if you manage to increase production from 30,000 tons to 40,000 tons or something. So it's very similar to what we did when we were renovating our home and applying for those green incentives. The one that came from the city stated that we were going to get I think it is a 20-year interest-free loan that gets applied on our tax bill so that we just pay it. And we got a little bit, 1/3 of the amount that we were entitled to as an advance to help pay the deposits, to make it easier to get those things. But if after we had done all those renovations and adjustments, we had somebody come in and do the assessment and on how our host was performing. And normally that costs $500. And there was an incentive in there too, that they would cover that, the $500, the people to come in. And if it could be demonstrated that with the changes, we had reduced our house's GHG emissions by 25%, I think it was, which we had, is $5,000 of the about $19,000 loan that we got from the city would be forgiven. So we only have to pay back 14,000. But that was after putting the money out first, making the actual changes, and then having the changes independently assessed to see whether or not they would achieve the desired outcome. And they did. And then we got the money. It seems that that type of process is going to go larger scale. So when the Prime Minister says doing it not through restrictions, but through incentives, this is what he's talking about. So it seems that here the cap, which hasn't been fully implemented, is going to be something that the government is going to use and say, listen, we're not taking it off the books now, but we're going to change the way we do this. And if this goes well, then we'll be able to eliminate that permanently. And if it doesn't, well, it's kind of there as a backstop. So the federal government is going to have to go out to all these industries and come up with some type of plan saying, okay, we are looking for reductions of this much in this year. And if you are willing to put in the money and you're able to do it, there will be some financial, and you can prove that you have done it so that we can document the results, the actual cut in emissions, then you will get your financial incentive. So it's a philosophical thing. You can, in law, establish a cap and hope that companies do what they need to do to meet it. But if they don't, then there needs to be some consequences, and then you have to be willing to impose those consequences. The consequences have to have teeth, and you also have to have the political courage to apply those consequences, because there's always going to be somebody in the wings going, oh my God, I can't believe you're making them pay that kind of a fine now in this economy. Oh my God, what are you trying to do? Make everybody lose their jobs? Right? So this needs to be a system that's agreed to, but that is stable and predictable. You know that if you invest this money, and you know if in investing this money you achieve X result in terms of reductions, that incentive will indeed come. So that is part of the climate competitiveness strategy, as well as choosing projects that specifically have a green or an advancing green technology, green engineering, or that advanced green principles here. And that's the part that I've been able to sort of figure out so far. But I am looking for something specifically that says more clearly, this is our comprehensive climate strategy. This is what we're doing, why, how we go about it. Here are all the various measures that we can incentivize people rather than providing interdictions. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people interested in this subject, so it probably won't take long for more information to come out on that in a more substantive manner. But I was really surprised that it wasn't really, really front and center and presented as a plank in the actual budget speech, because we've been talking about it for quite a long time, and I know that there's a lot of people very much interested in it. All right, back to more stuff from the budget. They said that there would be no surprises, but there was one interesting surprise, not of major consequence, but still some surprise. Now, the first part, it's a two-part thing. The first part is not a surprise because the federal government did actually promise this. Mark Carney campaigned on this in the election. Budget 2025 proposes to provide $150 million for CBC Radio-Canada this year to strengthen its mandate to serve the public and better reflect the needs of Canadians. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is needed. The government said it will also explore modernizing the public broadcaster's mandate to strengthen independence. And here's maybe the surprise. And for fans of the wild and wacky Eurovision Song Contest, the government teased that it's working with CBC Radio-Canada to explore participation in the annual Music Showdown. Not sure why that's in the budget. There's no real financial cost, but I guess it's just this little thing that gets thrown in. People wondering, well, it's Eurovision. How could Canada participate? Eurovision has somehow expanded a little bit. Israel and Australia also participate in the Eurovision contest, even though they are not geographically European nations. So there you go. So why not? Why not Canada? That could be fun. Like I said, doesn't change really anybody's life in a material way, but it's just a little fun element there. If you're a landlord with a vacant unit or the owner of a luxury jet, you're in luck. This part I always found a little weird. The government is eliminating two high-end taxes. The first is the underused housing tax, a 1% tax on the ownership of vacant or underused housing in Canada that took effect in January 2022. And it's also eliminating the luxury tax on aircraft priced over $100,000 and boats priced over $250,000. The budget said the moves are meant to simplify Canada's tax system and reduce compliance costs for taxpayers and administrative costs for the government. So I'm not sure if it's just that we have so few people buying aircraft over $100,000 and boats priced over $250,000 in a year that it's just not worth the squeeze to actually try to administrate the taxes on these, or if there's another reason that doesn't seem to be very clear to me. But it seems here that if a tax policy costs you more to implement than it generates, you might want to remove it as a tax policy. However, eliminating the luxury tax on aircraft and boats doesn't seem to be a very, for me, who will probably never be able to buy a $100,000 aircraft or $250,000 boat. Not that I would want to, but couldn't. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to look at this and say, yeah, great move. Let's make these things more affordable for people. Yeah. Now, again, who can afford luxury items? So, but it's in there. So I have to assume in this case that it would be taxes, just like some of the counter tariff measures that we had put in place that are ultimately more expensive to administer than to actually implement. So there you go, kits and cubs. Some overall broad lines from the budget. Some response from the Conservatives. I'm hoping I have some time here because there's one more, a little bit of a response. I'm cutting it close. You know what? There'll be more budget stuff to talk about over the next couple of days. I'm sure that we will get that there. So let's say that we have a show for today, kids and cubs. That's the end of our show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So tell your peeps and poops all about us, especially if you share a little bit of yourself. When you do that, we really appreciate it. Kids and cubs, if you are on the go and sometimes don't have time to watch the show with us, we can help because thanks to the Ray Girl, we have our pod page. And if you go to our pod page and you can either scan this QR code or go to podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. When we have something fresh off the bandwidth, we can send it to you if you click subscribe, because we also do a podcast version of our show. And that way, if you can't watch live, well, hey, you can just pop us into your ears and, well, we go with you wherever you go. So we're portable, lightweight. You can keep abreast of the news and take on the day at the same time. Thanks for your support, kids and cubs. If you would like to help us, well, one of the ways you can do that is by going on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. Yes, I thought I'd tripped myself up there when I was saying that. That's why I paused. And go there and smash with our buttons. Like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate it when you give us a little tickle. So please do not hesitate. The QR code that just appeared in the corner will bring you there. Now, kits and cubs, if you like our content and would like to encourage us to do more. We do incur some financial costs to bring the show to you, and we would kindly and humbly request your help with that if you are able to. We have the super chat function on our YouTube page as well as memberships, but we also have the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund via our coffee page. Ooh. Coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, or the QR code that just appeared there. Give it a little scan. And if you go there and you can drop a few loonies or toonies into our tip jar, we really thank you. It means the world to us to have your support. And everything that you put into the show, of course, goes back into the show to try to make it better. So we are very grateful for all you do for us. Thank you very much. Now, if you are buying Canadian, because it's very important, well, then we've got a way for you to contribute that way too. TrueNorthEagerBeaver@gmail.com is our email address. You just send us a direct transfer. The CE Tech Bros do not get a cut of your money, and we get 100% of your donation, so it does go further for the purpose for which you intended it. So we thank you so much for your enthusiastic expressions of encouragement. They really do help us immensely. Kits and Cubs, because democracy is something that you do, we've just got the petitions today for you. So House of Commons petition number E-6821 to try and encourage someone to put in some legislation that would change our media foreign ownership laws so that Canadian media can be for and by Canadians to serve the interests of Canadians. So please, if you have the opportunity, do go and sign that petition. And of course, I put the link up in the chat there for you. And then, of course, a House of Commons petition as well, E-6689, if I remember correctly. It seems that the Our Commons page is down at the moment, unfortunately. So I can't go double check that for you at the moment. It happens often enough that the page is down, I guess, for updates. But that one is to to get a bill that would impose some consequences on MPs who deliberately spread misinformation, because we need to have a little bit more honesty in our politics. So if you can go sign those, that would be fantastic, and we would be very, very grateful. Thank you for all of your help in that. Words of wisdom, Kits and Cubs. My words of wisdom for you today are don't take things for granted. You just might have a Chris D'Entremont in your life that might decide to cross over to the other party. Be nice to people on the way up. It can cost you later. All right. It could be a tough roll out there, Kits and Cubs. So please be kind to and gentle with yourselves. And now, at the count of 3, may I please have you say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, 3. Ooh, my. I even heard a little chinging sound, like in the Pink Floyd song Money. Ding, boom, 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 ding. I cannot deny you, Kits and Cubs. I simply can't. You're just too wonderful. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs, just a little note about Canadians who make us proud before we go. Skate Canada International took place, and we've had three medalists at the event in pairs. Former world champions Diana Stellato Dudek and Maxime Deschamps secured their third ticket to the Grand Prix final by winning gold here at Skate Canada. Piper Gillies and Paul Poirier won their sixth Skate Canada gold medal in iced dance. And I think their short program is to RuPaul's Supermodel Work. So it should be it was a really entertaining program. And we also picked up a third place there with Marjorie Lajoie and Zachary Laga there. So the future in ice dance, it seems to be again, very alive and well here in Canada. So congratulations to them. Piper Gillis and Paul Poirier, that was their first assignment. So they still have the second one to see if they qualify for the Grand Prix final. But our pairs, number one pairs duo, former world championships, did book their ticket to the final. So, and this is an Olympic year, so it's a very big deal. So congratulations to everyone who did so well. All right, kids and cubs, that's it for me today. We will see you again tomorrow. Amour et bisous. And with that, I am gone.